Hey everyone, welcome to the Single Player Experience Podcast, the premier podcast where single player gamers can find about good single player games to play and some upcoming games that you definitely need to have in your video game backlog. And speaking of upcoming games that you need to have in your video game backlog, that's going to be the topic of the show, so to speak, because I got hands on recently at PAX with one of my most anticipated games this year, and it's a game that you should definitely have on your radar. This is a game that definitely leaves an impression. It definitely leaves an impression on you for sure. And that's outside of at PAX. They had a gigantic wrestling ring there. They were kind of displaying for everyone, with actual live enhanced talent to perform for everyone. So outside of that general impression, the game is stellar, absolutely phenomenal. But enough about me gushing about it because I have someone special here to talk all about it with. And my guest today is none other than James from Mega Cat Studios. James, how you doing today?
Oh man, thanks for having me, Sebastion. I'm excited to touch base with you again.
Man, thank you so much for being on the show. Good to see you again. And one of the things that kind of like one of the main takeaways outside of like the wrestling ring and everyone performing was just the general response of the game. Y'all seem to have like a lot of good natured fanfare like surrounding this. Like, what's that reception been like for you? How were you taken aback by how beloved the game is even before its release?
Yeah, it was awesome. We've made a lot of games the last 7 years, and WrestleQuest has a just a massive amount of unique story background work. It's also been it was like a huge risk for the team. It's 20 times bigger than the games we normally make, and all these flagship licenses, and it's just a huge undertaking for someone who's a huge fan of role playing games, like making something that can meet player expectations in that genre with the depth and complexity and beauty that your favorite JRPGs have. It's a huge lift. So it's been so much fun, meeting folks who are spending an hour getting hands on with it. We've been really lucky to win like a dozen different Best in Show and Best Gameplay awards at events and festivals, and we've been working in the game for 4 years. There's a massive amount of time and content, 150,000 words, like 2 novels worth of content. It's just there's just so much stuff. So it's really really validating for the team, and I'm just so proud of them for sticking with it and putting through all the tighten the bolts, move the screws, take the feedback, because so much of what makes a game good is just taking massive amounts of feedback from players and then channeling it into tweaks and adjustments. So it's yeah, just really exciting. And maybe check the box I didn't realize we'd ever check was having like 100 people around the wrestling ring like chanting WrestleQuest and pounding their chest was kind of
Hmm.
like a one of the most ridiculous and fun moments of my games career, was looking over and seeing my team members just like ear to ear cheesing because so many fans were just definitely enthralled by the wrestling, but also just having that kind of be the cap of multiple days of people just loving it at PAX East this year, which is the event we had announced it at a year prior, and it was just really fulfilling, to see that. 'Cause I just can't wait for the game to release.
Yeah, yeah. So James, for the people who don't know about WrestleQuest, can you give them the general like pitch on the game?
So WrestleQuest is the world's first wrestling JRPG. It's all set in a high fantasy Toy Story meets wrestling universe. So wrestling is life, wrestling is real, and it's all through this like super nostalgic action figure toy lens. We found out as we were early on in the visual identity side of WrestleQuest that we love pixel art, but we didn't want our game to be misinterpreted for Fire Pro Wrestling or like a ROM hack or WWF Raw or anything like that. So when we were going through these kind of visual hooks, and you think about how pixel art is commonly in the same several like 3 or 4 sizes and resolutions, and it's hard to have these 32 pixel height sprites that are all human, that are based on these likenesses that don't look similar. And we kind of stumbled into this realization that for a lot of us, our first memories and some of our fondest memories of wrestling were being introduced to wrestling toys as a kid and even collecting them as an adult. So once we kind of stumbled into that like super nostalgia, even more personal kind of eureka moment, actually informed this whole like the whole creative kind of high fantasy part of what are the liberties we can take now with these characters if it's plastic combat and maybe a limb snaps off and you just reconnect it with a new screw, or maybe there's some model glue that you pick up with the third world that, maybe that's how you get Big Daddy Squeeze or G-Space Wrestler, to the next level. So
That's really cool. That's really creative. I like how you have like that unique twist, like that Toy Story or like that Toy Soldier. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
oh yeah.
Like spin on, yeah, like spin on everything. It does add a unique twist on what you could have been easily compared to Fire Pro Wrestling. But that twist and the turn-based elements, the JRPG elements, really help this to stand out as something unique and then I don't think like I can't name a game that looks like this, that feels like this, that has like this sort of heart and heart behind it, in the wrestling department, in the wrestling genre. And I've played plenty of wrestling games over the years. I think I've played every WWE game of the past 20 years. This feels special. Like, what's that process been like creating this for like 4 years? What's some of the lessons y'all learned?
Oh man, the whole company's changed since we started. Like, it's the same people working on it, but while we were going through the WrestleQuest development, we also just picked up a million new tools and pieces. And we're like a 50% of our product mix work for hire. So we always have to make sure we're finding ways to keep the lights on, but also keep the team excited and fulfilled creatively. And it's games are tough; they're hit-based industry, and we work with our larger Goliath-sized partners. We can't not give them our best, right? But the whole reason we joined the games industry in the first place were to make these games that we really want to make. And it's always interesting trying to find a way to balance that and find a way to build like a case that there's a market with something that's never been done before. In WrestleQuest, we brought it to many publishers that said no. Like, we had a few that thought there was no, like, wrestling fans are kind of blue collar and RPGs are maybe a little more like high effort, energy, thought, strategy. So we had a lot of those, which I thought it's kind of funny in hindsight, because probably not many wrestling fans of those publishers, since wrestling is this like really high character, story driven,
Oh, for sure.
like experience. And I think for a lot of these people, they're like, this is crazy. In some cases, it was, they were just really concerned, publishers were, about not having good comps, because there aren't like sports RPGs that have been incredibly successful, right? There's Golf Story, and there's a giant fall off. Then there's like a Barkley game maker game. It was on Kickstarter. It doesn't appear to have like a long tail, but like it definitely made a small splash for like super fans, but making it more of a niche. So maybe a little bit too risky for a lot of publishers. And then there's really not much else. There's not a lot of success stories there. So that makes it hard for forecasts. And then, the licenses, as much spice and like vibrancy as they add, having, the Randy Savage, like Macho Man estate, like endorsing and advocating and licensing the character, there's some concern around, do people still know and care about Macho Man? Like, surprisingly enough, at many events, we have people that have no idea who Andre the Giant is. And
Oh, wow.
It's crazy to me, because I grew up just enthralled with wrestling, and he's this truly iconic, like, helped create this whole, what a crazy visual and a character. And he had this pop culture extension with Princess Bride, and it just really surprising to me as a lifelong wrestling fan. But also, I can see how some of those concerns like do exist, and we're validated with, we'll say like mass market gaming fans. But I mean, we didn't make WrestleQuest for mass market gaming fans anyway. So it's interesting to go through, because we've done a lot of work with a lot of publishers, and we have so much respect for the genre and for wrestling, that one of the things that makes WrestleQuest unique is that we just poured everything we had into every corner. Like, it's just packed full of Easter eggs and truly interesting for wrestling fans or JRPG fans, like replayability. Like, I'd say the core driving kind of vision for the product pillars of what makes the game is that we wanted it to be equally appealing to JRPG super fans that don't know wrestling as it is to wrestling fans who may not love JRPGs, because we could see the writing on the wall. We were talking to a lot of publishers that there may be something to that. So that's been the hill to climb and the barrier to overcome, and we feel like we're there. We've been really excited about some of these unconventional wins. Like, one of my favorite was last year at PAX East. One of the first press interviews we had, we became like acquaintances later, just kind of staying in touch. and he wrote us an email just thanking us for introducing him to wrestling, because he started with watching like wrestling after playing WrestleQuest, which was just really unexpectedly hilariously fun because his whole pretext before taking the demo was him just saying, "Listen, I don't like wrestling. I'm incredibly hard on games, and I particularly love RPGs, and I have not reviewed these favorably." And I remember getting the email for our as a response, and I'm like, I guess worst case scenario, we learned some stuff about how to make the game better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it went great. But those kind of experiences have been just so much fun to go through, because aside from it being a kind of funny story for the team, it's one of the reasons we wanted to create WrestleQuest. We wanted to share this fandom of these two things we just love dearly, that we think have a lot of interesting intersection, but can live together without someone having both.
Yeah, I can completely get that. And you're right. Like what you said kind of like it made me kind of like it took me aback for a second. Like people don't know who Andre the Giant is anymore.
Dude.
Like I am shocked. I like, especially as an old school wrestling fan, like Andre the Giant, Junkyard Dog, like
Mm-hmm.
the $1 Million Man, and, like all these things, Ted DiBiase. I'm like, oh man, it's shocking to me that we're in an era to where like there are like people who don't know that lineage of wrestling.
Yeah, it is wild, man. And we went pretty deep and wide to even get to the licenses we settled on. Like we had almost double the number of talent agreed and signed that we found out after rigorous amounts of due diligence. They don't actually own the characters or the costume, and that was its own steep learning curve, because there's so much there's so many pitfalls in that space, because the era of wrestling we were operating in was also like pre WWF.
Yeah.
Part of like the ethos of WrestleQuest kind of universe is this territory system of each new area is a territory, and it's just like layer after layer of why it's never been done before has become obvious over time. But it's been awesome to get together, because at the same time, for every unique problem and wall we ran into, we found somebody who we generally were sharing this passion for wrestling or JRPGs, and helped us kind of climb over it. It's like without getting like off topic, when we had applied for like Tokyo Game Show, when we applied late, and we went through a couple of different hurdles kind of through the submission process, and no one speaks Japanese in the team, and we had some issues with the localization team we were using to help go through the process. And long story short, we ended up still getting into the showcase and becoming friends with one of the curators, because he was just a massive wrestling fan. And he like played the game, and he reached out to us. He's like, by the way, like, not only can we find place for you guys in the showcase, but he ended up introducing us to a handful of Japanese publishers. And we went there the next year for TGS in person. It was like hanging out with like an old friend or something, because we realized there's this unique bond from like a wrestling fan to wrestling fan that probably exists in other hobbies, but there's definitely a personal nature to kind of like what we built that kind of jumpstarts these relationships in a really fun way. Like I've had so much fun going to events and having people come over and kind of turn to us like either speechless or just geeked out, because they're like picking up all these Easter eggs, and they're channeling this triple down on nostalgia, where they're remembering their first pay-per-view, or remembering going with their dad to a local wrestling event, or receiving an action figure on Christmas. And that's really the foundation of WrestleQuest. So it's awesome to watch people kind of walk through those moments and experience them in real time. It just makes me wish that we were working on WrestleQuest 2 or something, because I don't know how we could recreate that same kind of energy.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I guess you maybe, since y'all are so territorial based, I'm like the era in which this game is placed with a lot of it's kind of mid-south almost. It kind of has a little bit of that, the mid-south kind of vibes, the NWA kind of vibes as well. Like it would have to maybe be a different era, or maybe be like global territories and such like that. Since you have the Japan connections now, maybe some New Japan, like New Japan influences as well. There's a lot of ideas there, but I digress. Yeah, I digress. It's one of those things to where like it's such a cool concept though. And you're right, like I was one of those people who was picking up on Easter eggs myself, like the Road Warriors, for instance. I've being a 90s kid, like I kind of caught a lot of the tail end of their career more so than their early phases. But like, yeah, that was like catching them and seeing like aspects of them in the game, like different things like that. The statues that are in there are amazing, absolutely amazing, and it feels like the game plays like such a good homage to like the Legends past, like Jake the Snake Roberts and such. So really love that. I gotta ask you though, what was it like developing a game, through the whole COVID era? Like you started the development cycle like 2 years into it, and then like the world just shuts down. What was some of the pivots y'all had to make?
Yeah, we do have an office here in Pittsburgh. We do now too, and ours was probably like a lot of game companies. We were already working hybrid,
Mhm.
so we've always had some sort of partial, partial action, at home. But we had so much. I want to say so much of our cross-functional team meetings and our production calls were live in our office at the same table, pointing and talking and kind of having that kind of like share energy, share space. And I would say we didn't miss a beat working together because we worked through Slack, and most
Mhm.
of us were able to kind of hit the ground running with that. But one of the unexpected challenges there is that we have a number of team members with kids, and some of them, like Zach, has five and another one on the way. So it's a very busy household to say the least. So it's not quite the same for some people having to focus remotely because he kind of lives in like a elementary school or something.
Yeah.
So it's there's a little bit of that, and there's just a little bit of I guess unexpected turn with some of our team members. I distinctly remember, I'd say some folks were, I want to say, getting depressed, but it's like I didn't realize how much that was going to change some people's lifestyles, because for some people they didn't leave the house at all, right? They,
Mhm.
like, sometimes you don't realize it, but some of the guys who would walk 40 minutes each way to the office rather than biking or driving, that was like a major pillar for their like life, for their activity. It was like exercise and fresh air, and it's what a weird thing to go through for everybody. And I think ours was almost double complexity at times because we started renovating the new office building we purchased about 3 months before COVID. So it was like three times the pain for cash flow, because we now had this new office space that was supposed to be in deep construction, with like people trying to establish new mask policies and trying to figure out how to work around all this crazy new world. So it was definitely not easy, but the team definitely got through it pretty easily from a creative standpoint. I think for WrestleQuest specifically, as many people who were inconvenienced by having like crazy home lives, I think some people were like triple the effectiveness, because they're sitting there in their PJs, just 5 feet from their Keurig, just slapping Macho Man sprites. So it's I'd say it didn't hurt production, but it was unique. I don't know how many teams have this same type of structure, but there's so much value to me and a few of our team members I know share this sentiment. Having like FaceTime, where like QA sits down with some of the devs and the writers and interprets feedback from play sessions, or kind of mini focus groups. And we're in an area here in Pittsburgh too, where we have a lot of other tech companies and friends that we have little events at the office, or game makers, happy hour type events. And we didn't realize how much those were influencing our production until we didn't have them anymore.
Yeah.
So it was almost like part of our, it was almost like an extension of our team, because those people were driving so much of the feedback subconsciously for us, that having that shift was also unique.
Yeah, so it changed quite a few things. I I gotta ask you though, like we, I see a whole lot of consoles behind you. Everything from a PlayStation 5 all the way to a Super Nintendo. I think I spot a 360 and among some other ones. What's your favorite console of all time? And then I got
So
what?
that one's easy, dude. It's Sega Genesis for sure. We have
Oh wow.
we have daily arguments about this. So no one on my team is alarmed hearing that, but I grew up with the Sega, and
Hmm.
I like love the Super Nintendo specifically because of JRPGs, and I can tell you all about why Sega is like a truly Goliath 16-bit console. But You know, what's unique about WrestleQuest context with that question is, you know, I purchased Super Mario RPG for like 70 some dollars at Toys R Us with some allowance in middle school. I got home, popped it in, and all my friends were already playing Resident Evil on PlayStation and N64, and I was kind of a cycle behind. I remember being so hyped to get this new Mario game. I like kind of shamefully got it home and put it in. My friends are killing zombies, and then I started playing. I thought, this is not Mario at all. What is this crazy game? You know, it was my first RPG, and then, you know, 5-6 hours later, I was just eyes peeled open, like after dinner, just so immersed in this, right? And that game's a masterpiece. It's like a Square Enix and Nintendo, and it's just this you know, so much of the WrestleQuest systems are inspired from Super Mario RPG. A lot of folks have actually recognized that and brought it up, and it's funny you mentioned that, because that game actually like opened up an entire like library for me. Because before Super Mario RPG, I basically only used my Super Nintendo to play like platformers, because I'd play them all on Sega, and I wasn't ready to go 32-bit. You know, so it's really funny. But we have daily, you know, I want to say emoji arguments about our love for our consoles we each grew up with. I have, you know, team members that are Atari super fans, which you gotta feel bad for those guys, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but Genesis, man, there's so much good stuff on there.
The reason why I was gonna ask is because like you can kind of see some of the influences of that 16-bit to 32-bit like era games in WrestleQuest, and like I for sure when I was playing it kind of like got like flashbacks to when I first played Chrono Trigger as well, and that was one of those to where I'm like, oh man, it's giving me some of these same vibes in a different sort of way, and I love that. I love that feeling. Like, what some of the other games that kind of were inspirations for WrestleQuest?
Yeah, Chrono Trigger, I'd say is the second. You know, so I'm glad you mentioned that. I'd be remiss if I didn't put that first for Zach, because that's his love letter. You know, but you know, we laid out everything we loved about JRPGs and everything that players complain about with JRPGs. You know, like the grindiness or repetition, and you know, so much of the WrestleQuest game design influence was built around how do we hit the spots everyone loves and expects, and then also work around some of these maybe evolutions or opportunities for, you know, modernizing it. And that's how we came up with things like the pinning mechanic that kind of keep players more engaged, and having that rhythm kind of you know, satisfying kind of wow moment of almost increasing the cadence of what a wrestling match might feel like for battle. You know, because you want the experience to still feel turn based if you're kind of like min maxing and chilling, but you know, having the hype meter, which basically shows the audience being engaged from the showmanship of the talent in the ring, paired with the pinning mechanic, kind of emulates that kind of feeling of watching a wrestling match, of this excitement and this performance and performing for the crowd. And you know, so you're actually penalized as a player if you kind of spam and cheese the same moves over and over. And there's an incentive now to kind of get some diversity in how you perform and how you you know, bring the showmanship to the crowd. And that's been a lot of fun to tune, and that's probably been one of the hallmarks for fans who have played it and reviewed it. Is, you know, it has such a unique approach to systems that's both very wrestling-y and very JRPG satisfying.
Yeah, that's really cool. I want to talk to you about the main character of this game, like original character as opposed to a licensed character. Was that always the intention?
Yeah, you know, Muchacho Man was in the game way before the licenses. The Spice himself, you know. But when we first conceptualized WrestleQuest, we knew we wanted to make our own characters kind of front and center, because what we really wanted to combine was like the culmination of all of our favorite characters, stories, and moments, without having, you know, I want to say landmines or continuity issues that you might get for super fans. So WrestleQuest didn't have any licenses for 75% of the development.
Oh wow.
Part of it was because, you know, we desperately wanted to work with WWE, and they weren't sure that there was a fit in the market for this, and they also weren't sure how this may impact their other licensing partners, because, you know, the other licensing partners like 2K put major investments into using these characters, and in many cases these characters are also like dual licensed by WWE. Like WWE may own a costume and a specific gimmick, but maybe they don't own, you know, Randy Savage or Jake the Snake. So It's definitely there's a few too many hurdles to climb, and it wasn't until we were very deep into the project that we actually realized and had validated, including through WWE, that that there are ways for us to very I want to say very high engagement, attention to detail, um, make sure that there's no conflicts and there's no legal issues, and that we're
Hmm.
working in line with kind of the autobiographical take of these stories, and not borrowing things from like WWE storylines while still bringing them to life. So once we turned that corner and we got our first few licenses, we also at this point had built some unique trust with a lot of talent. And once we built some relationships with folks like Jeff Jarrett, that brought another degree of, I want to say, not just credibility to the other wrestlers, but I think once they realized that we were just so deeply committed to the authenticity and we were just wrestling fans, there was this turning point of like that's what we actually have all in common, is that whether you're Jeff Jarrett or Zach at Megacat or
Hmm.
Jeff at Skybound, we're actually just all wrestling fans first, and that kind of commonality and thread, kind of propelled all the rest of the all the rest of the details. Then we just built out the table and the matrix of people that we knew were clear, and people that we knew would might be clear, might not be. How do we disqualify them and tee it up? And many emails and phone calls and Zooms and everything else later, we had our roster, and we decided that part of this execution was, not just paying homage to these legends by making them playable characters like they are everywhere. It was actually like thematically making the cities and the territories like totally devoted to them. So when you go into like Boxwood and you see the giant Macho Man statue in the city center, it's immortalized, and all these wrestlers are just around it, seeking advice or paying homage, or kind of being there in a thoughtful kind of community idols. And it's like the idea is that in this world, because wrestling is everything, like these characters are there just because they have this love for this universe that's now built on the shoulders of these legends, kind of what they did for wrestling. So it made the creative even more fun to play with, and it gave us a unique way to kind of apply them that's never been done before.
Yeah, that's really cool. You mentioned some of the locales in this game. What was it like creating all these locations that kind of pay homage to the legends of the past, as well as creating something special? And then like on top of that, I gotta ask, like, how big is the game overall? How many locations are there?
So I can't spoil everything, how many locations, but there's a lot of statues. I'll say that we've shown over 15 already at events to the public. So there's more
Hmm.
than 15. Um, the I would say the most compelling way to explain WrestleQuest use of these characters is that whenever you successfully complete missions and side quests and achievements in an area, you're rewarded with either a piece of equipment or move sets, or there's a manager system, or some of them can be unlocked as managers, which act as an extension of your party. It's like a fourth party member,
Hmm.
and you can kind of carry that with you throughout the game. So as an example, there's in one of the areas with Jake the Snake, if you choose a certain path and get to a certain skill level, you can summon Jake the Snake to like DDT your opponent.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
it's like, I wish I could do that in real life, dude. Like it's like it's definitely a fantasy, but it's I think those types of things are cool because they kind of pay into everything you'd expect as a JRPG super fan, but now instead of these summons being dragons, it's a very powerful DDT.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that it's his finishing move as well. I love the attention to detail there. So I gotta ask you, like, how many hours can the gamer expect to get out of WrestleQuest? Like, just if they were doing a lot of the main quests and some of the side quests.
It's around 50 hours of core gameplay content. We've had some people speed run the heck out of it, and it still takes 30 some hours.
Oh wow.
So if that's if you are not, moving and grooving. And there's 15 playable characters. There's a lot of content. To be completely honest, we shouldn't have made this much content. It was this. It was probably the strangest, worst business decision we may have ever made. But
Hmm.
we just love it so much, and we wanted parody for fans that if you grew up with Junkyard Dog or Andre or any of these flagship icons, that there was enough story for each, and you felt like you were being served and you were getting everything you needed. And if you were not a wrestling fan and this is your first introduction to King Kong Bundy, we want to make sure that you're getting your fix, that you
I
understand.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. All right, so who did you talk to throughout the process that you nerded out with? That was like your childhood. That was someone you watched as a child, and you were like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm talking to this person."
That's a tough one. I'd say Road Warrior Hawk. I mean, Road Warrior Animal.
Mm-hmm.
We got an opportunity to meet Joe a few times, and he was just awesome. And I have so many memories as a kid, just like looking at Hawk and Animal and just being completely geeked out. Right, like they were just so larger than life, and I love the content that our team had created for the area. So there's without spoiling anything, there's a
Mm-hmm.
tribe that worships the Road Warriors in this kind of Mad Max styled universe, and that tribe like steals war paint to serve their overlords. So they like steal face paint across all these face paint shops. And you imagine in a wrestling based universe that face paint's very valuable. It's
Oh
very
yeah, for
important,
sure.
So
That's hot commodity right there.
that's right. So it's like the idea is that you're combining this kind of basis of Mad Max, like 80s kind of wild over the top nature with wrestling, and also the fact that this super fandom of these kind of Mad Max tribe are just, they worship the Road Warriors and they exist specifically to steal face paint all over the world. And I just love how that stuff came together. But probably Animal for that kind of fandom. But I just can't tell you how much fun it's been working with Jeff Jarrett and DDP. Like Jeff
Oh,
is
that's
like,
amazing.
I've had so many people have asked me like who my favorite three wrestlers are, and I tell them Jeff Jarrett 2 times, DDP once, because it's like I did not love Jeff as a kid, right? He's a heel.
No, for sure not.
He's a little bit of a cheese. Like it's like I remember the TNA era was kind of when I stopped watching wrestling too. So I was able to catch up on these storylines now, but that dude is such a pro, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he knows his craft so well. And now that I have such a different understanding of wrestling, and I just love the heels, and it's like
I'm the same.
I get such a kick out of watching old Jeff stuff now and new Jeff stuff now. And it's we had a team meeting at AEW recently in person, and it's like the whole team was just popping whenever Jeff came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we had like a huddle beforehand. I'm like, listen, when he comes out, like boo as hard as you can, because like
he's a heel.
This dude's not going hard for us to applaud. Like you need to boo like you hate him, and he robbed us, and WrestleQuest is tanked because of it. Like you can't, give it your best. And I remember, a couple of our team members that were there, that are especially some newer team members, like Becca, it was her first wrestling event. You could see a little bit of culture shock, but she was like, I gotta boo him. I'm like, Jeff's our friend. I'm like, boo him like you hate him. Like,
it's the best compliment you could give him as a heel,
Dude, no doubt, man. And then DDP is like he's larger than life, like I loved, a huge WCW fan. Like I would say that it's probably like sacrilegious, but I was more of a WCW fan than the WWE growing up. And
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people like AEW, that because it's like it kind of appeals to that old school WCW fan for a lot of us. So I hear that quite a bit, especially considering a lot of us, especially in the 90 kids, like really like Sting, really like DDP, really liked NWO, and like Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio had their classic matches as well, like at WCW. So it was just that era of wrestling though too. It's like, and that was also like where you saw like premier wrestling as well, like because they had like the cruiserweight division was on fire during WCW. You got me gushing about like wrestling history right now, but like I'm a guy who loves it, absolutely loves it. Yeah, like Jeff Jarrett, DDP. One of my like favorite moments, DDP moments, is when like everyone thought he was going to the NWO. He put on his NWO t-shirt, and then like the rest of the NWO is celebrating in the ring, and then he turns around, gives one of them the diamond cutter, and then runs off through the crowd.
What a crazy moment,
I loved it.
I'll never forget that either, man. I remember like what I was eating, where I was sitting, like it's just and so much of what I loved about DDP was that he had this unconventional start, right? Like he didn't really pop off until he was like 35, and despite putting a lot of time in and doing a lot of, we got to know him a little bit throughout WrestleQuest, and some of my favorite moments are these like canned experiences that I never in my life would have expected. Like I remember just one day I was looking over and it's like 3 a.m. I'm in my kitchen doing bicep curls while DDP screams at me. Like I with like two of my team members in the room. My wife's like staring at me, what's happening in my kitchen, and it's like that's all because of WrestleQuest, dude. It's like
That's amazing. That
yeah,
is so cool.
yeah, it's funny, man.
Oh man, that's so cool. It's so amazing to see some of the people you watched as a child like be a part of a project that you're working on at this stage of your life, man. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, it's been wow. We're so lucky, to have built rapport with a lot of these guys and get them involved with the game, and they're just awesome, like community members. Like you get the sense that they understand like the significance and value of the brands, but they also like come from such a hard scrabble like start that they just really respect like the love as of a fan
Mhm.
to invest and also helping to kind of build this piece of their legacy. And I think it's just so obvious if you play WrestleQuest that it's just made by fans who are just so deeply committed. And once the guys see it, even if they don't play or care about video games, like they really get it once you show them what it's about. It's like it's interesting, because I think the story driven focus for us is really illuminating and exciting to a lot of the talent. It's they're used to being in games and mocap, and
Mhm.
they get it. Like people love wrestling and wrestling games, but the story part has just been captivating for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, it's different though because this is almost like it's not quite the like like a documentary, but it is like a walk through history, and like almost like a retelling of history for a lot of people, especially like the legends probably to see like themselves like immortalized in a different way that also pays homage to some of their historical moments.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've been really excited about kind of telling some of these stories that we're canning for the end. But I've had a number of either people part of the estates or even some of the existing legends that are still with us, like with their family members, like reach out and thank us for kind of contributing to the legacy because they're just so happy to have to be part of the story, and it's that's pretty unique. A lot of these folks that don't love or play video games, like they're in their 60s. They don't, they came from a different generation and era that didn't put video games in the same pedestal. Like they probably were closer to Pac-Man than Fortnite.
Mhm.
So it's like it's really validating, I think, for our writers and our creative team, and Zach, who's like the core wrestle father of WrestleQuest, to get that kind of feedback from people that he looks up to so closely.
So, who did the soundtrack for this game? Because one of my impressions for like at PAX was that I really enjoy the music and
Yeah,
such
thanks,
like that.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so we have two composers, Mitch Foster, who's been with us since we very first started, and Elaine Gordens, and he's awesome, man. He's our head of sound, and those guys, it's like 80 tracks,
mhm.
long, big soundtrack, and thousands and thousands of sound effects because of the amount of content. And we've had a lot of compliments about the soundtrack, which I think is so important for immersion and for JRPGs. And it's interesting because if you play a game like a Chrono Trigger, like the music is it's not just part of the immersion; it's part of like the emotion, and it's easier to have this like somber, atmospheric, presence that is a different execution, but it is something that can be emulated versus having something like wrestling, which is this over the top, brash, loud, popping space. So making the soundtrack kind of have this ebb and flow of ambiance, despite being wrestling and toys, mixed with crazy over the top wrestling walk on tunes, was a unique challenge, I think, for the folks doing like all the music. And those guys have been composing music for the better part of their adult lives and then some. So they definitely took it seriously.
I'm glad that music is such a big proponent of this game because, like, you're right. Like, music's like a huge part of the DNA of wrestling. Like, whether it be what you're walking out to, whether it be like the entrances. I can still, like, to this day, remember like 3 different Raw in WWE Raw entrances to this day. I can hear them. I know exactly like what era it is. I can picture the entrance way. It's like the sounds of wrestling are just like a part of the experience. I can hear glass shattering right now in my kitchen and
Get it,
immediately
bro.
think of Stone Cold. And immediately think of Stone Cold Steve Austin. It is one of those things to where it's just it's a part of that DNA of wrestling.
One of my favorite tracks in the game is Macho Man's walk on music, Pomp and Circumstance, like his
Mhm.
classic music. it's public domain. So given that we have this Macho Man Randy Savage license, and he's the core icon of the game, since Macho Man follows in the footsteps of his hero. Mitch, who is the true like lead of all composition for years before we even hired Elaine. Mitch made a heavy metal cover of Pomp and Circumstance that is just lit, dude. And it's like I can't even tell you how many times it's played in loop in the background while we were working, because it just hits all these spots for us of it's very Macho Man, it's very Mega Cat, it's very WrestleQuest. It just feels like it's been a really fun part of the journey.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. So James, I believe this. I know for sure this is coming out on PC and Switch. What other systems is it coming out on?
Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, PC.
Okay, so pretty much everything.
Yeah, and some others to be announced, but we're coming up with some cool press speech really soon.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, congrats on your journey. I know this is I won't ask for a release date. I know it's a release window is coming up pretty soon though.
It's imminent, dude. Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming for sure, for sure. Thank you so much for being on the show. Before we go though, I have one last question, and paying homage to the wrestling inspiration behind the show. The question is, are you ready? Because it is time for the Pro Nerd Trivia portion of the show, where I ask my esteemed guests 5 different categories on 5 different topics of nerddom. Normally, I have the Wheel of Destiny here on my screen right here. I still have that, but on one question, I've specifically chosen that the wheel land on the category of wrestling, because this is a wrestling centric show. So I want to test your knowledge a little bit. So with all that said, are you ready, James, to see if you're a pro nerd?
Let's do it.
All right. So here we go. All right. Our first category, the Wheel of Destiny, has officially landed on Harry Potter. Harry Potter. So we'll see if this is a good start for you. All right. So in Harry Potter, what insect or creature is Ron Weasley afraid of?
Now, I want to add a preface by saying that I'm more of an amateur nerd and a professional wrestling fan, but so like Ron Weasley, I'm just gonna go with a possum, because I know that's not right. I think possums are terrifying.
Do you really?
Oh, they're horrible. Super rabid. Have you seen their teeth? Dude,
yeah.
Don't Google it. I'm gonna save you that pain.
I'm here in Texas. I've seen tons of possums. I've never really found them scary, but
dude, you get close enough, you can change your opinion.
That is that might be true. I haven't just snuck up on one like that. That's pretty funny. Okay. Unfortunately, the answer is spiders. So you are 0-1, but I will have to say I got to go. I am kind of like morbidly curious of these possum thing right now.
Man, I gotta tell you, it was 2002. Went outside. It was junior in high school. That was a big possum close in my face, and I'll never let that go.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Our next category is in the world of Marvel. All right, so what U.S. city is Captain America from?
So I'm sending you a possum mouth.
Oh, no.
I want you to open it with caution. Okay. But it is like...
Okay, let's see. Jesus, is that what they look like for real?
You can't trust that mouth, dude.
Good Lord.
That's a business mouth. It's going to take you out.
Like those teeth are extremely long and sharp. I didn't know they had that.
They are, and they're just they're like highly insane. They're unhinged, bro. So anyway. So
it looks like a vampire teeth.
It's no good, man. Although baby possums, they're equally cute as the adult possums are terrifying. So I can see how someone could get tricked by these vixen sirening, mammalian monsters.
And they're devious too, because I just thought they played dead. I didn't know they had this like weaponized capability.
Dude, you can't trust a possum. You're just adding to the details. But so
that's so funny. All right,
so Marvel, where's Captain America from?
Yeah, what U.S. city is Captain America from?
Yeah, he seems like a Midwestern dude, but
oh, this possum is terrifying.
I'll be honest, I'm off my game after that pop. I got a whole Google image search open right now, but you could ask my name, I might trip on it. I'm gonna have to phone a friend, dude. I don't know much about Captain America.
Okay.
I got some DC skills, but
All right. Well, hopefully the wheel will land on that next. But the answer is Brooklyn. He's officially from Brooklyn, New York.
oh man, what a disappointment! I have two friends that are in Brooklyn that work for MegaCat. That would just be really let down.
What? You'll have to tell them about this. You'll have to
Yeah,
tell
dude.
them about this. That's
Pat
so
the
funny.
Cat. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Okay, Matt. He's failed you, but he's gonna make up for it right now. All right, so here we go. The next category is in the realm of Nintendo.
Oh, finally, something I'm experienced with.
Yeah, Nintendo. Nintendo's a hard one though. Historically we haven't gotten a lot of right answers from that one. So, all right, so here we go. Can you name the female variation of the character Yoshi?
Hmm. I don't know her name, but I've seen her in a strategy guide, and I appreciate the work she does.
I believe the character's name is the female dinosaur Birdo. Birdo.
I can't believe Birdo is the female Yoshi. It's funny. I was just visualizing Birdo and thinking, I wonder what the relation is in this, Jurassic Mario world, right? But dang, got me.
Was she in the Mario RPG back in the day? I don't think so.
I don't think Mario RPG, but I mean, definitely in like Mario World and Mario 2. And, I think that was probably my first introduction to Birdo Energy. But, I think they're on the cover of the strategy guide for Baby Mario.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah. Yoshi's main events. Of course, you got some Birdo energy in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. The next category is you got it, is in the realm of DC. DC. So let's see what.
Where are these wrestling and cat based question at, dude? I'm about to have you on the Mega Cat report. Give you a 6-cat tabby base trivia moves.
I saved it for the fifth and final question, but okay. So here we go. Okay. All right. Name one of Bruce Wayne's parents.
Martha Wayne?
Yeah, Martha is correct. Martha is correct.
Martha.
Yeah, BVS. I'm still traumatized from that. I can't believe they did that for real. All right, so did you like Batman versus Superman? Are you on that fence?
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. I'm such a nerd for superhero stuff. Like I just think consuming that content across comics and movies is fun. Like I've been introduced to superheroes sometimes through cinematic universe extensions, and I think it's dope. And I know there's a lot of I'm going to say a lot of moxie that goes into even making these things, and a lot of just highly polarizing hate. I love all of them, man. Like I love the Incredible Hulk movies that people cheese all over.
Whoa,
dude, I have fond memories of watching the Lou Ferrigno series when I was a kid too. It's just like I think all that stuff is it's really interesting content, but it's the more you love it, the closer you get, the more polarizing it is to fans.
Okay, I understand. Have you seen the new Flash trailer that came out recently?
I did, yeah.
Oh, that looks so fun. I am excited.
I can't wait for 50th gen consoles you can finally play as Flash, because it's like imagine how much fun that would be, man.
That would be exciting. All right, so last question in the pro wrestling trivia. All right, there is two people who have held the world title for 16 times. Can you name one of them?
Man, I should really know 16 too. Hmm.
16-time world champion.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I feel like Pat's gonna be let down again. And this is any world champion. It's not limited to WWE, right?
This is I believe it's not limited. One of them, spoiler alert, has won the NWA championship.
I mean, what's challenging about that is like everyone's won the NWA championship.
For sure. It did not help very much.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Jeff Jarrett for this one. It's like
he probably won at least 10 times in Impact.
I was gonna say, what's interesting about that is I think Jeff's been a champion 20 plus times, but it's complex because when these folks are traveling across all these different feds and indie things, think about like Cardona, like it's such a crazy stat, right? Like if you had said just WWE, you really could have narrowed it a bit, but
he's known for being a 16-time world champion in WWE. But I gave you that
I heard the 16-time soundbite. I was like, man, this is a bear, because it feels like I've heard that exact bit so many times.
Yeah, it's a part of it's a part of a famous promo.
No doubt. Yeah. I'm just gonna go with Jeff, even though it's not Jeff, because I like saying his name. I think people should keep him on his mind.
Okay. So that is incorrect, but I will give you a famous promo real quick, and that will kind of let you know who it is. All right, so let me make sure I got it correct.
It's I'm almost certain that did you go to Flair's last match this year, by the way?
I didn't go, but I watched it. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure there was a 16-time shirt there, but
it was Flair, by the way. Yeah, it was Flair.
Yeah, we took the whole team to Flair's last match.
That's amazing.
Anyway, yeah,
that's amazing. Was it fun in person?
It was dope, man. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was like there was GCW events. There was like just a true celebration of Rick's career. There was like great signings, and it was one of our first WrestleQuest events that was not a gaming event, right? So it was like it was like, rather than being in a sea of games with wrestling fans finding us, it was like a sea of wrestling fans just like high-fiving and cheering. So it was like it's pretty dope. Yeah.
So you've had some team members who'd never been to a wrestling show before. Like they went to a GCW show. What was that like for them? That had to be like,
dude. Yeah. I wish some of them were here to even tell you what it was like. But I would say that without being too long-winded, in most cases, they had become introduced to wrestling as a concept through the lens of WrestleQuest. So all they knew was like the couple over top characters, maybe some pop culture pop-ups, but I never really watched like a traditional match. And so much of WrestleQuest is built around like over top characters, which it's promos and it's like costumes, and they don't understand what it's like to be in the indie scene. And a big part of WrestleQuest is literally going from concept and backyard wrestling to being on a stage that's bigger than life, and seeing like the span of like AEW Rampage to like GCW indie stuff was probably my most treasured introducing team members to wrestling moment, because it's like it just makes it so real and it's so authentic. You get the sense of like what it's like for these guys putting themselves on the line and performing in front of these audiences, and it's we embraced it so much. We ended up doing like the indie wrestling event at PAX, and it's all those guys were very selected and curated because I think they're just fantastic talent. Like those guys are great. There's actually, without getting too detailed with that, there's 3 folks that we had on the roster at PAX East are like top 25 unsigned talent right now in indie. Like they're excellent performers. Like we wanted to make sure that the people who were casually stepping into PAX East were getting just an awesome start to their wrestling interest.
Oh, that's amazing. So like, you also had a championship belt at PAX East that people were able to take a picture with inside the ring and such like that. What was all this planned out? Like,
yeah, so much of this stuff's been like bucket list for us. Like we basically set up the whole, if we make this game, what does it look like, and how do we capture the fandom of merch, and how do we, even if it's just us making it and giving it away or sharing it, and the wrestling belts are no brainer. There's an amazing company called Gatter Brothers that does the buddies. There's a few people that do those buddies, but Gatter stuff is just killer quality. So if you wanted to really, dust your knuckles up and teach that buddy a lesson, these are going to last. And it's been so much fun testing these things out. And the belt community is actually a massive piece of wrestling, like fandom. If you look, I don't know how much you followed belt collectors, but it's like the belt community is its own underbelly, right? It's like it's awesome, and it's we've had quite a few different WrestleQuest belts made, and talk about like a Instagrammable kind of photo moment. It's like everybody wants to be a champion of something.
For sure.
And it was fun because some folks who didn't even play the game or see it came over because of the ring of the belt, and then I'd be like slowly magnetized over to play because they hear people like chattering, and they see people like reacting, or So it's all like it all came together really well. But we've been wanting to do the belt stuff since like day zero. We've had some of those belts since the game before the game was signed. We were actually sending championship belts to publishers to get their attention.
Mhm.
And it's like it's a little expensive to get these custom belts made.
Oh yeah,
All
for
around,
sure.
but it's
For sure.
I imagine that and some of them actually come forward with this. But I imagine there's a couple of those publishers have already come forward to say like I wish I would have signed the game.
Oh, that's amazing.
Which is dope. And I told them, keep the belt, and like someday that'll be a collectible. Put it up in eBay. There's probably some wrestling fan that collects belts. It's like I need that 101.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I know a couple that like hang different belts on his wall and such like that. He has a whole wall full of like of championship belts, and I was like, that's amazing to me. It's an expensive hobby, but that's amazing.
Dude, man, have you ever seen Conrad's collection?
Oh no,
Dude, you got to see, Conrad, like the podcast host, Conrad Butler, right?
Yeah.
He's a crazy, insanely cool belt collection. You got to see it. We actually recreated it in WrestleQuest, but it's like he has this belt backdrop of this, giant like mahogany shelves with these perfectly displayed belts of all these rare different one of ones, and it's pretty neat, like a testament to his dedication and fandom. Because I understand collecting. You can see my background. Like I did plenty. I remember when I finished my cartridge sets, being like, time to get the boxes, and it's like I get it. Like it's like such an interesting space, because the belts these guys collect are like, this is the belt that Ric Flair won at Starrcast 7, and it's like it's wild, man. So it's so cool to see that exists, and I spent quite a bit of time talking to Sonny Ono about this stuff too, because
that's cool.
He's helped a lot of people track down a lot of obscure belts in Japan.
Yeah. So my last question for you, after this game releases, one, how are you going to celebrate? And then two, are you going to have one of those belts like hung up in the office over there? Or are you going to hang one up at the home office over there as well?
It's a good question. So 2 questions there. One is, how are we going to celebrate? And we've been saying that we're method developers. Like Zach has been power bombing his children to sleep. Like I've been, choke slamming team members on performance reviews, and they do a great job. And we just been so into it. Zach actually wrestled at PAX East. We've been training and practicing. So I think I'm probably going to wrestle Zach for a hair versus hair match, and then that'll be how we celebrate. Maybe we'll stream it. We'll see. But someone's going to get shaved.
Yeah.
And then as far as the belts go, we have one at the office that's super dope. It's a 101. I love it. It's from FanDu Belts. They make amazing stuff. Check their stuff out. It's FANDU. And I hope that we sell enough copies. I could buy a couple belts for everybody, because one of the hardest decisions, and the reason it lives at the office, was who gets to keep the belt.
Oh, wow.
So everybody wants it, right? So it's a funny company goal, but I hope we make enough recoup that I could buy belts for the team, because that would be a pretty dope Christmas gift.
Oh, it really would be. It really would be. James, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. Like, it's been great talking to you. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I cannot wait for WrestleQuest. Like, as a wrestling fan, I am salivating for this game. It was one of the games that I walked away with during PAX. I was telling my wife this at a hotel room in Boston, that I was just like, I need this game. Like, I need this pumped into my veins. Like, I cannot wait for this.
Thanks, man. I can't wait too. It's like we were so nervous to announce it, because we had so many publishers say it was not a good fit. And then I remember after that first Xbox showcase, the chat was just blowing up, people being like, I feel like this was made just for me. And I just that's why we made it. We made it because we're those fans, and I know there's others out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know what console I'm gonna play this on, and that's the hardest choice. It's just trying to figure out what console I'm gonna play this on.
Dude, hopefully you give your Steam Deck a test drive, because it plays great on the Steam Deck. Nice and portable, and there's so much content. You can play it one eye in your bed, you can play it on the couch, you can take it on the road. So you're ready to do business with that Steam Deck, man.
And that the JRPG element does make it feel like it's perfect as a portable game. And I'm getting what you're throwing down there. I'm catching that. So thank you so much, James, for being on the show. But without further ado, where can the good people find you?
WrestleQuest.com and MegaCatStudios.com.
All right. Do y'all have a Discord server that y'all like to be involved in?
You get it through either website, and it's discord.gg/MegaCat. A lot of wrestling fans on there. Unreasonable number of cat photos. So if you like one of those two things, you should find yourself at home. Yeah.
All right. So we're salivate. The people are salivating for more news. We can't wait to hear from you more. I'm assuming later this year. So
Soon, dude.
you soon. But until then, thank you so much, James. I've been Sebastion. That's been James. Y'all need to go wish this Mega Cats. Do it on all stores, and you're not gonna regret it because this game is amazing. Until next time, peace, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you, Sebastion. Thanks for including us.
Anytime. Catch you next time. Hey, thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked the video, hit that like button. Also, for more videos just like this one, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right here. Thanks again for watching the video, and for more like it, stay right here at the Pro Nerd Report channel. So that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, hit the subscribe button for more videos just like this one. I also want to let you know about the Single Player Experience Discord server. It's a perfect place for single player gamers to talk about the good single player games that they've been playing lately and to get video game recommendations. Think of it kind of like a book club for single player gamers. The link to join will be in the description. Once you're in, feel free to share your video game backlog list, talk about the good single player games you've been playing, or give your feedback on the show. If you have a game you think it should be recommended and should be reviewed, let me know about it right there.